Okay, so this is part two of learning the Afterburner engine in my game design class. This part we created a GUI which is going to manipulate this car model here in various ways. So the first thing to showcase is global rotation, and if you see these axes, this blue axis refers to the z-axis, the green is the y-axis, and the red is the x. If I change the value of this z-axis, you'll see that it's rotating about this blue axis. If I set this back to 0, and I rotate, or I change the y-axis value, it's rotating about this green line. And then if I change the x-axis, it rotates about this red line here. Okay, so let's reset these to 0. Now for relative rotation is going to take into account the orientation of this. It's not just based off of these global axes. So to show this, I like to set the z-axis to 45, and then if we change the y-axis negatively, the design will pitch up. And you can see that this isn't in relation to the global y-axis. This is simply from the y-axis of the model, which would cut through it like this. You can see it's kind of rotating on this like horizontal axis, and then the x-axis is going to be going through it perpendicularly like this. So we get like a side roll rotation. And then if we try to rotate the z-axis again, it's still going to be on this because in the global rotation we didn't rotate it around the y or the x, so it's still fixed on the z-axis. Um, but yeah, there's global and relative rotations. Um, so let's reset these. And you can see that the model's a little off, and we can change these again. And if you press this reset pose button, it resets it to its normal orientation. It's better to set these sliders to 0 and then press reset pose, so that way everything matches up. Okay, so for translation, we've got each direction, z, x, and y. If we change the z, it either goes up or down according to the z-axis. Y, same thing. X, same thing. Currently, the model is oriented about each of these axes, the global axes, but this translation is actually relative. So if we change this to 45, you'll see that going positive in the x direction doesn't go along this axis anymore. It goes along the model's relative axis, which would go this way. So you get this forward backward motion, and then the y does the same thing, so it's going to go left and right instead of along this green line. And then if we change the x rotation and the y rotation a little bit, you'll see that the z translation is not bounded to the z-axis as well. Okay, so let's reset our sliders. Whoops. And there's one last thing to show. Let's reset this. Um, from the first part, we had a cube that we could spawn in pressing spacebar. This is still here. We can still make this cube spawn in. And if we uncheck this manipulate car box, we can actually even rotate the cube. And all of these work exactly the same. The translation is relative. And if we make it rotate relative, those all work. Let's reset these and then show that the reset pose works for this as well. And there we go. Back to the original orientation, and you can spawn these all around and rotate them like so. So that's pretty much it for this assignment. One little thing, it probably seems like I'm just deleting the old cube and then spawning in a new one because only one cube spawns in the whole time. But actually, if I restart this, I just had the cube spawn below the grass block the whole time.